The tactical display showed 847 vessels, arranged in perfect military formation. Admiral Tetra watched the numbers update. On his screen, feeling satisfaction. Spread through his chest, every major species in the Confederation had sent their best ships. The Orvan Republic contributed 200 cruisers. The Halkadan Empire sent their legendary dreadnoughts. Even the usually neutral Pelvan Council committed 3 carrier groups to the blockade. This show of force had one purpose. The humans needed to understand their place in galactic society. Tetra adjusted his viewing angle to see the entire fleet. They stretched across space like a wall of metal and energy. Nothing could pass through without permission. The humans had been warned 6 times over the past month. Their refusal to acknowledge Confederation territorial claims had forced this response. They were newcomers, barely a century beyond their home system. Someone needed to teach them how things worked. His communication officer made a clicking sound that indicated incoming data. Tess returned his attention to the young Pelvan female at her station. She looked nervous. Admiral, we have a contact approaching from human space. Tetra felt his confidence grow. Finally they would send a diplomatic ship, perhaps someone with actual authority who understood the situation. He straightened in his command seat and prepared to accept their surrender of passage rights. Classification, he asked. The officer hesitated. Her tendrils twitched in confusion. Unknown vessel type, single contact, maintaining steady velocity toward our position. A single ship. Good. The humans recognized they could not match this fleet. Tetra ordered his communications team to prepare standard diplomatic channels. He would be generous in victory. The humans could keep their colonies but must accept Confederation oversight of their expansion. Reasonable terms. Distance to contact, Tetra asked. 200,000 km in closing. Admiral, they are not responding to our hails. Tetra frowned. Perhaps their communications were damaged, or maybe this was some cultural issue about when to respond. Humans had strange customs. He had read reports about their tendency to approach problems directly rather than through proper channels. Continue hailing. If they reach 50,000 kilometers without responding, move 3 cruiser groups to intercept position. Non-hostile formation. We want to demonstrate strength without appearing aggressive. His tactical officer, a veteran from the Halkadan Empire, made an approving gesture. The plan was solid. Show the humans they faced overwhelming power, while offering them a graceful way to back down. The minutes passed slowly. The human vessel continued forward. Still no response to communications. Tetra began to feel the first touch of concern. What kind of ship ignored military warnings? Even civilian vessels knew to acknowledge fleet communications. Visual range in 30 seconds. His sensor officer reported. Tetra leaned forward. He would finally see what the human sent. Probably an old freighter converted to carry diplomats. Humans were known for their practical approach to resources. Why waste a good ship just for negotiations? The main display shifted to show the approaching vessel. Tetra felt his breathing stop for a moment. That was not a diplomatic ship. The vessel had a dark hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its design was angular and aggressive, nothing like the rounded civilian craft humans used for Trade energy signatures pulsed along. Its surface in patterns Tetra had never seen before. The ship moved with purpose, its course unwavering, heading directly for the center of his fleet. Formation, get me identification, Tetra ordered, hearing the edge in his voice. His crew worked frantically at their stations. Database searches came back negative. The ship matched no known human civilian design, military databases had no record either. Whatever this vessel was, humans had kept it hidden. I have a designation painted on the hull, his sensor officer said. UHNS. Defiant classification appears to be military. Military. The humans had sent a warship to challenge 847 of the Confederation's finest vessels. Tetra wanted to laugh at their arrogance, but something about that dark ship stopped him. The way it moved spoke of confidence. The energy readings suggested technology his sensors struggled to classify. Move cruiser groups 7, 12, and 18 to intercept course, weapons to stand by. But do not achieve lock. Let us see if we can convince them to stop with a show of force. 3 groups of Confederation cruisers broke formation and accelerated toward the human ship. Together they represented enough firepower to level small moon. Surely the humans would recognize the threat and slow down. The Defiant did not slow down. Tetra watched the distance close between his cruisers and the human vessel. At 10,000 km, his ships moved into weapons range. Standard military procedure called for the target to acknowledge and respond. The human ship remained silent. Energy spike from the target. His sensor officer called out, "Their defensive systems are activating." The display showed power readings. Climbing on the human ship, shields materialized around the dark hull, but they looked different from standard defensive screens. They rippled with energy in overlapping layers. Tetra had never seen shield technology like that. Fire warning shots, he ordered. Minimum power, target the space ahead of them. Show them we are serious. The 3 cruiser groups fired in unison. Energy beams lanced across the darkness, designed to pass in front of the human vessel as a clear warning. They were not trying to hit, just demonstrate capability. The human ship did not change course. Instead, something impossible happened. Point defense systems on the Defiant activated with speed that seemed beyond reaction time. The warning shots disappeared before they could complete their trajectory. Small bursts of counterfire intercepted every single beam. Silence fell across Tetra's bridge. His crew stared at their displays in disbelief. Those shots had been moving at light speed. Nothing should have been able to track and intercept them. The targeting computers required would need processing power beyond anything the Confederation possessed. What just happened? Tetra asked quietly. Nobody answered. His crew kept checking their instruments, hopping for equipment malfunction, but the readings were clear. The human ship had just demonstrated defensive capability that should not exist. The Defiant continued forward, crossing into the fleet's perimeter. Tetra made a decision. They needed to know what this ship could do. All vessels, battle stations, target the human ship. Prepare to fire on my command. Inside the Defiant, Commander Amara Grant reviewed the tactical situation. With calm focus, her bridge crew operated their stations with quiet efficiency. No shouting, no panic, just Professionals doing their jobs. The holographic display showed every ship in the alien fleet, each one marked with identification data and threat. Assessment: 342 people served aboard the Defiant. Grant knew most of them by name. They had trained together for 2 years, preparing for exactly this kind of situation. Earth Command had been clear about expectations. Humanity would not be intimidated, but they would not start wars either. The mission was simple: pass through the blockade, demonstrate capability, minimize casualties. Grant touched her command interface and opened fleet communications. Time to see if the aliens would listen to reason. Confederation Fleet, this is Commander Amara Grant of the United Human Naval Ship Defiant. We are exercising our right to free passage through open space. We have no hostile intent. Stand aside and there will be no conflict. She waited 10 seconds for response. The alien fleet remained in battle formation. Weapons were charging across hundreds of ships. They intended to attack. Warden, full defensive protocols, Grant said to the ship's artificial intelligence system. A calm male voice responded through the bridge speakers. Defensive systems active. Threat assessment complete. Probability of hostile engagement 97%. Recommended response: demonstrate superiority while maintaining non-lethal force parameters. Grant nodded. That matched her own analysis. The aliens thought they could win through numbers. Someone needed to teach them why that assumption was wrong. 20 ships broke from the alien formation and accelerated toward Defiant. Energy signatures indicated they were charging weapons to full power. This was no longer a warning. They intended to disable or destroy her ship. Helm, maintain current course and speed, Grant ordered. Her pilot, a young man named Harris from the Mars colonies, did not hesitate. I command her, steady. As she goes, the alien ships opened fire. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and kinetic rounds filled the space between them and Defiant. It was an impressive display of firepower against any other ship in human service. It might have been concerning against a Drake-class battle cruiser. It was merely target practice. Point defense engage, Grant said. The Defiant's computer systems processed targeting data faster than biological minds could follow. Defensive weapons mounted across the whole tract. Incoming fire and responded with precision that looked like magic. Small rail gun rounds intercepted energy beams. Laser clusters burned through missiles before they could arm. Counter fire destroyed kinetic rounds while they were still thousands of kilometers away. Not a single shot reached Defiant shields. Grant watched her crew work. They were barely paying attention to the attack. Harris kept the ship on course. The tactical officer monitored the alien fleet positions. The weapons officer prepared response options. This was routine for them because humans trained for combat in ways the galaxy did not understand. Warden, calculate firing solution. Single rail gun, minimum power. Target the lead alien cruiser engineering section. Non-critical systems only. The artificial intelligence responded immediately. Solution calculated. Shot will penetrate shields and hull. Damage confined to secondary power systems. 0 casualties projected. Grant approved the firing command. 1 of Defiant's primary rail guns adjusted aim and fired. The round was tiny compared to full combat loads, moving at only a fraction of maximum velocity. It crossed the distance in less than a second. The alien cruiser's shields flickered but did not stop the projectile. The round punched through the hull exactly where Warden had predicted, passed through the ship and exited the other side. The cruiser went dark as its power systems failed. Emergency lights activated along the hull. The alien attack stopped. The remaining 19 ships halted their assault and backed away from Defiant. Grant could imagine the panic on their bridges. They had just watched their shields and armor fail against a single shot fired at minimal power. Open a channel, Grant said. All frequencies. Her communications officer nodded. Channel open, Commander. Grant spoke clearly and simply. Confederation fleet, that was a warning shot at partial power. Your shields cannot stop our weapons. Your hulls cannot resist our rounds. We disabled that cruiser without trying to kill anyone. If you continue this attack, we will disable every ship in your fleet the same way. You will survive, but your vessels will be helpless. She paused to let that sink in. Humanity does not want war. We want peaceful passage. We offered to negotiate terms. You responded with military blockade. This was your choice, not ours. Stand aside now or learn what human warships can do when we stop holding back. You have 30 seconds to decide. The alien fleet did not respond immediately. Grant watched their formations on the tactical display. Ships were repositioning, commanders arguing about what to do. Some vessels backed away, others moved forward. The fleet was losing cohesion as individual captains made their own decisions about survival. 20 seconds passed, then 30. The deadline expired. Warden threat assessment, Grant said quietly. 53 vessels are powering weapons. Probability of renewed attack 89%. Estimated time to firing 40 seconds. Grant had hoped they would be smart. Apparently hope was not enough. She touched her command interface and opened shipwide communications. All hands, this is the commander. The Confederation fleet is preparing to attack with overwhelming force. We are authorized to respond with non-lethal defense. Disable their ships. Protect our vessel. Harm no one if possible. That is still the mission. Show them what Drake class can do. Her crew acknowledged the orders with simple confirmations. No speeches, no bravado. Just quiet acceptance of duty. Grant felt proud of them. They understood what was at stake. This was not about winning a battle. This was about showing the galaxy that humanity could not be bullied. The alien fleet attacked with everything they had. 847 ships firing simultaneously created a light show that would be visible from planets in nearby systems. Energy weapons, missiles, kinetic rounds, exotic matter, projectiles. They threw their entire arsenal at one human ship, Defiance. Shields flared as they absorbed impossible amounts of damage. The point: defense systems worked beyond their rated capacity. Harris pushed the ship into evasive maneuvers that would have killed a crew from any other species. Humans survived because Earth's gravity had made them strong. Grant watched the tactical display and smiled. The aliens thought this was war. They had no idea what human war actually looked like. Tetra gripped the arms of his command seat as his fleet unleashed everything they had. The view screen showed weapons fire from 800 ships, converging on the single human vessel. Surely nothing could survive this. The combined firepower represented decades of military advancement from the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. The human ship disappeared behind a wall of explosions and energy discharge. Sensors could not penetrate the chaos. Tetra waited for the tactical officer to confirm the kill. They would recover whatever remained of the wreckage and learn human secrets through salvage. The weapons fire cleared. The human ship was still there, not damaged, not disabled. Still there. Tetra heard someone on his bridge make a sound of pure disbelief. His tactical officer ran diagnostics on the sensors, convinced they were malfunctioning, but the readings were accurate. The human ship had taken the full assault from the largest fleet ever assembled and showed no signs of damage. Then it moved. The Defiant accelerated faster than Tetra thought possible. The ship did not just increase speed, it changed direction so rapidly that the G-forces should have turned the crew into liquid. No biological being could survive those maneuvers, yet the human ship twisted through space like a living thing. His weapons officer managed to track the movement for 3 seconds before losing lock. The other fleet ships reported the same problem. Their targeting systems could not keep up with something that moved like that. Defiant fired its rail guns, not one shot this time, dozens of rounds launched in rapid sequence, each one targeting a different ship in Tetra's fleet. The rounds moved so fast they appeared on sensors as streaks of probability rather than solid objects. Tetra watched his tactical display light up with impact markers. Ship after ship went dark. Power systems failed, engines died, shields collapsed, but holes remained intact. Life support continued functioning. The human ship was surgically destroying combat capability while keeping crews alive. Precision like that should not be possible at these speeds and distances. Tetra realized they were not fighting a battle, they were being taught a lesson. All ships' evasive maneuvers break formation, he ordered. Too late. The Defiant moved through his fleet like a predator through prey. It seemed to know where each ship would be before they moved. Railgun rounds found targets with perfect accuracy. Missiles from the Defiant tracked vessels through impossible course changes. Energy beams from the human ship cut through shields that were supposed to stop anything. Tetra watched in horror as his legendary combined fleet fell apart, not through destruction but through systematic dismantling. The humans were not trying to kill anyone. They were proving a point. We can end this fight any time we want. We choose not to kill you. That thought was more terrifying than facing weapons designed for slaughter. The restraint demonstrated absolute confidence. The humans believed they were so superior that they could toy with 800 warships and not feel threatened. His communications officer was receiving emergency signals from across the fleet. Captains were requesting permission to withdraw. Some ships were already retreating without authorization. The fleet's morale was breaking faster than its combat capability. Admiral, the human ship is hailing us again, his communications officer said. Tetra almost did not answer. What could he say? They had tried to destroy one human ship with everything they had. They had failed completely, but duty required response. He straightened in his seat and tried to project authority. He no longer felt. Put them through. Human commander appeared on his screen. She looked exactly the same as before. The battle, not excited, not angry, just calm and professional like she had been, taking a peaceful walk instead of fighting the largest fleet in Confederation history. Admiral Tetra, you have seen what one human ship can do. We have disabled 47 of your vessels. 0 casualties. We can continue until your entire fleet is helpless, or you can acknowledge that this blockade was a mistake. Tetra wanted to refuse. His pride demanded it, but he was responsible for millions of lives under his command. The human was offering him a way out, accept defeat but save his crews. What do you want? He asked. The human commander's expression did not change. Stand aside, let us pass. Then return to your governments and tell them the truth. Humanity will not be intimidated. We want peace, but we will not accept threats. Any species that respects our sovereignty will find us generous allies. Any species that threatens us will learn why Earth builds its ships to survive the impossible. Tetra made his decision. The fleet will withdraw. You have passage. Relief showed briefly on the human commander's face before her professional mask returned. She nodded once. Thank you, Admiral. For what it's worth, you made a difficult choice. That takes courage. Earth respects courage. The communication ended. Tetra sat in his command seat and stared at the viewscreen. The human ship was already moving forward, heading deeper into what had been Confederation territory. His remaining fleet cleared a path, ships moving aside like fish avoiding a shark. He knew his career was over. You did not lead the greatest fleet ever assembled to defeat and keep your rank, but at least everyone would survive. Their ships could be repaired, their crews would return home because the humans had shown mercy. His tactical officer approached. Admiral, analysis suggests the human ship never used its primary weapon systems. The main guns remained offline during the entire engagement. Tetra absorbed that information. They had held back their strongest weapons. The rail guns and missiles were secondary systems. He did not want to imagine what the primary weapons could do. Send a message to Confederation Command, Tetra said. Tell them we encountered human military capability. Tell them our fleet was defeated by a single ship. Tell them any further confrontation would be suicide. He watched the Defiant disappear into the distance, heading for destinations unknown. The blockade was over. The Confederation's attempt to control human expansion had failed catastrophically. Now the galaxy would have to learn to live with a new power, a power that could destroy anyone but chose not to. Tetra was not sure if that made him feel better or worse. At least with normal enemies you knew where you stood, but humans apparently fought by different rules. Rules that valued life even during war. Tetra hoped the rest of the galaxy would be smart enough to understand what that meant. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within days, every major civilization knew about the Defiant incident. Footage from alien ship sensors spread through networks like wildfire. Everyone watched the same impossible scene. One human warship defeating the largest military fleet ever assembled, not through luck or trickery but through overwhelming technological superiority and surgical precision. Ambassador Nath of the Orvan Republic watched the footage for the 17th time in his private office. He had voted for the blockade. He had believed humans needed to learn their place. Now he watched his civilization's finest cruisers disabled like training targets and felt shame burn in his chest. The Confederation. Assembly called an emergency session. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the Great Hall on Unity Station. The debate had been going for 6 hours. Some demanded immediate military response, others wanted diplomatic negotiations. A few suggested quarantining human space and pretending they did not exist. Nath stood when his turn came to speak. His voice carried across the hall through translation systems. We made assumptions about humanity. We believed they were primitive because they were new to space. We assumed their technology was simple because we saw only civilian ships. We sent our fleet to intimidate them because we thought they had no choice but to comply. He gestured to the displays showing frozen images of the Defiant. Every assumption was wrong. The question now is not whether we can control humanity. The question is whether we can survive making the same mistakes again. The hall erupted in argument. Some called Nath a coward, others accused him of surrendering to fear. The debate might have continued for hours if the message had not arrived. A human ship was approaching Unity Station, not a warship, a small diplomatic vessel, requesting permission to dock. Commander Grant wanted to address the assembly. The representatives argued about whether to allow it. Some saw it as a threat. Others saw it as an opportunity. Finally, the decision was made. Grant would be allowed to speak, but she would come alone without weapons and submit to security screening. 2 days later, Nath stood in the assembly chamber as Grant entered. She wore a simple uniform with no medals or decorations. No guards accompanied her. No show of power or intimidation. She walked to the speaker's platform like someone who had nothing to prove. The chamber fell silent. 200 species watched this human who had defeated their greatest fleet. Grant looked around the room calmly, meeting eyes without aggression or submission, just direct human contact. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Grant began. I know many of you are afraid. Some are angry. That is understandable. What happened was violent and shocking, but it was also necessary. She touched a control on the platform. Holographic displays appeared showing Earth rotating in space, blue and green, and brown covered in swirling clouds. It looked peaceful, beautiful even. This is where humanity comes from. To most species it looks like paradise. Scientists classified it as barely habitable, gravity 30% higher than galactic standard, radiation levels that would sicken most races, weather patterns violent enough to destroy cities, predators that evolve to hunt in packs, diseases that mutate faster than most medical technology can track. The displays changed to show human colonies, every single one on planets the Confederation had marked as uninhabitable worlds with crushing gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures. Humans lived on all of them. We did not develop advanced weapons. Grant continued. We developed advanced survival technology, the same systems that keep our colonies alive, make formidable warships. Defiant is not a Dreadnought. It is a standard patrol cruiser. We have 73 of them. Our actual military vessels would seem excessive to you. Nath heard shock sounds around the chamber. 73 ships like Defiant. The galaxy had assumed it was unique, a prototype or experimental design, knowing that humans had mass produced such vessels changed everything. Why are we telling you this? Grant asked. Because transparency builds Trust, Earth wants peaceful coexistence. We want to trade, share knowledge. Explore together, but we will never again allow others to threaten our freedom. We learned that lesson from our own history. She paused and looked directly at several representatives who had voted for the blockade. Your fleet tried to intimidate us into surrendering sovereignty. That could not be allowed. But we could have destroyed every ship. We could have killed millions. We chose not to. That choice defines who we are. A representative from the Halked and Empire stood. You speak of peace while demonstrating war capability. How can we trust you? Grant nodded. Fair question. Let me answer with information. Human ships are built to survive extreme conditions. Our shields use overlapping field generators because single point failure is unacceptable on death worlds. Our hulls are reinforced because colony ships need to withstand impacts from debris at relativistic speeds. Our weapons are precise because resource scarcity taught us efficiency. She changed the display to show technical schematics. These are full specifications for our defensive systems. We are sharing this information freely. Any species can study it, learn from it, adapt it to their own needs. We are not keeping secrets because we are not afraid of you. The chamber erupted again. Species demanding to know why humans would give away military advantages. Others claiming it was a trick. Grant waited for silence before continuing. We share this because Earth's real strength is not technology, it is our approach to problems. We survived on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We learned to adapt, to protect each other, to turn enemies into allies. Those lessons matter more than weapons. Nath found himself believing her. The logic was sound. A civilization that could defeat the galaxy's strongest fleet had no reason to hide their methods. They were demonstrating confidence through transparency. What does Earth want from us? Nath asked. Grant smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Recognition of our territories, freedom to explore and settle as we choose, trade agreements with any species that wants them, and allies. The galaxy is large. There are threats out there we have not met yet. When those threats appear, humanity wants to face them alongside friends, not alone. She looked around the chamber one more time. The defiance showed you what we can do. Now let us show you who we are. 3 months after Grant's testimony, the galaxy was still adjusting. Trade agreements between Earth and various species multiplied. Weekly, human technology sharing programs helped dozens of civilizations improve their environmental systems. Colonial governments reported increased interest in the harsh worlds humans preferred. Nobody wanted to live there, but everyone wanted to learn how humans made the impossible work. Former Admiral Tetra sat in his new office reviewing intelligence reports. The Confederation had offered him a position as human affairs analyst. He accepted because he needed to understand what had happened. His fleet had been defeated, but his curiosity had been awakened. The reports made interesting reading. Human ship construction followed patterns that seemed wasteful until you understood their origin. Triple redundant systems, excessive armor, power generation far beyond what seemed necessary. All of it made sense once you accepted that humans designed everything to survive catastrophic failure. Tetra was composing a report when the emergency alert sounded. He pulled up the incoming data and felt his blood chill. The Broken Chain Pirate Coalition had attacked a human merchant convoy, 40 pirate warships against 3 human freighters. This was going to be bad. The pirates apparently believed the Defiant was unique. They assumed normal human ships would be vulnerable. Tetra wanted to tell them they were making a fatal mistake, but the attack had already happened. Now he could only watch the consequences unfold. The human freighters had not been destroyed immediately. Their distress signal reached Confederation monitoring stations. The data showed the merchant ships forming defensive positions. Their shields were holding against pirate weapons. Point defense systems were active. These were cargo vessels, not warships, yet they were fighting like military escorts. A human battle cruiser responded to the distress call. UHNS Resolute, not the Defiant but the same class. Captain Diane Brooks commanded. Tetra pulled up her service record. Former fighter pilot, decorated for actions in some conflict. Earth had not shared details about current assignment, frontier patrol and merchant protection. Resolute arrived at the convoy location. In 27 minutes, Tetra watched the tactical data and realized the human ship had crossed distances that should have taken hours. They're faster than light systems, were more advanced than anyone knew. The pirates tried to flee. When Resolute appeared, smart decision. But too late. Captain Brooks sent one message, simple and direct. You attacked civilian vessels. You threaten human lives. There will be consequences. Resolute opened fire with full military authorization, not warning shots, not precision strikes to disable. Full combat engagement designed to eliminate threats permanently. Tetra watched 40 pirate ships disappear from sensors in less than 8 minutes. Human battle cruiser used weapons the Defiant had kept offline, mass accelerators that fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed, energy weapons that burned through shields like they were paper, missiles with guidance systems that made evasion impossible. This was what human war looked like when they stopped holding back. This was what they could have done to Tetra's fleet at the blockade. The difference was clear. Attack military vessels and humans would disable them. Attack civilians and humans would destroy you. The Broken Chain ceased to exist as an organization. That day, the few survivors spread word through the criminal underworld. Human merchant ships were absolutely off limits. The risk was not worth any potential reward. But the attack had unexpected consequences. Refugee ships started arriving at human colonies. Species fleeing war zones and persecution had noticed something important. Humans protected their space ruthlessly. Pirates avoided it. Slavers would not enter it. Predatory governments stayed away. A family of Pelvan refugees arrived at the human colony on scorched rock. The planet was officially classified as uninhabitable. Surface temperatures reached extremes that would kill most species. The atmosphere required filtration to breathe. Gravity was punishing. Yet humans had built a thriving settlement there. The refugee family expected rejection. Why would humans want more mouths to feed on such a harsh world? Instead, the colonial administrator welcomed them, offered them temporary housing while Earth Command decided on permanent placement, provided medical care and food supplies. Similar scenes played out across 24 human colonies, refugees showing up because they had nowhere else to go. humans accepting them because it was the right thing to do. Earth Command held emergency meetings nobody had planned. For this, human colonies operated on tight resource margins, adding refugees with strained systems designed for specific populations but turning away people fleeing danger when against human values. Grant was called to participate in the discussions. Her expertise on interspecies relations made her valuable. Beyond military matters, she listened to the logistical concerns and the ethical arguments. Finally, she offered a suggestion. We have the environmental technology to help them adapt, teach refugees how to survive on harsh worlds, give them the same tools we use. They cannot colonize these planets themselves, but they can learn our methods and apply them elsewhere. The proposal spread through Earth's government and colonial administration. It made sense from multiple angles. Refugees got sanctuary and education. Humans got additional labor and diverse perspectives. The galaxy saw humanity's willingness to help the vulnerable. Implementation happened faster than anyone expected. Human colonies established refugee settlement programs. Environmental adaptation training became standard. Species that could never naturally survive on death worlds learned to thrive there with human technology and guidance. Nath visited one such settlement 6 months after the pirate incident. He found a mixed community of 20 different species living alongside humans on a world that should have killed them all. The refugees worked in agriculture using human hydroponics. They maintained shield generators that protected against radiation storms. They operated mining equipment that extracted resources from hostile geology. A young Orvan female showed Nath her family's quarters, basic but comfortable, protected from the environment by technology her people had not developed. She spoke simple Earth standard learned from human teachers. Her younger siblings played with human children, no different in their joy, despite being different species. Why do humans help us? The young Orvan asked Nath. He thought about that question, considered the strategic benefits and the practical advantages. But watching the mixed species community work together, he understood the real answer. Because they can, Nath said, and because choosing not to would make them less than they want to be. 1 year changed everything. The species that tried to intimidate humans through military blockade now sought alliance. With them, refugee populations swelled. On human colonies, trade routes through human space became the safest in known galaxy. Pirates avoided those regions entirely. Slavers found their operations disrupted when humans offered sanctuary to their victims. The Galactic Summit on Crossroads Station represented the biggest diplomatic gathering in recorded history. Representatives from 300 species assembled to discuss the formal recognition of human territories and establish frameworks for cooperation. Everyone wanted to know where humanity fit in the new galactic order. The human delegation arrived without fanfare. Grant, now promoted to admiral, led a small team. 3 ambassadors represented Earth and the colonial governments. No military escort, no weapons, just 5 humans walking into a station filled with thousands of aliens who had feared them months before. Nath greeted them at the docking port. His friendship with Grant had developed through regular communications. He understood humans better than most. species. That understanding made him valuable as a mediator. The assembly is ready, Nath said. Though I must warn you, not everyone is pleased with Earth's proposal. Grant nodded. We expected resistance. Change is difficult but necessary. They walked through the station. Corridors, species stepped aside as they passed, some with respect, others with lingering fear, a few with open hostility. Grant ignored all of it and maintained her calm, professional demeanor. The assembly chamber fell silent when the human delegation entered. Grant took the speaker's platform and looked out at hundreds of species. She began without preamble. Earth proposes mutual defense agreements with any species that wants them. Technology sharing focused on environmental adaptation and survival. Systems, formal recognition of human territorial claims in exchange for safe passage guarantees through our space. Refugee settlement programs with transparent oversight and joint exploration initiatives to map regions beyond current borders. The proposal was reasonable, almost generous considering human military advantage, but it represented significant shifts in power dynamics. Species that had dominated galactic politics for centuries would have to accept humans as equals. Ambassador Krill of the Halkiddan Empire stood. His species had the second largest fleet in the galaxy. They saw themselves as natural military leaders. The rise of humanity threatened that position. These terms assume human superiority. Krell said, you offer technology sharing as if we need your charity. You offer protection as if we cannot defend ourselves. The Halkiddan Empire has maintained order for 3,000 years. We do not require human intervention. Grant listened without interrupting. When Krell finished, she responded calmly, the Halkiddan Empire has impressive military history. Earth respects that, but the galaxy is changing. New threats emerge. Resource conflicts increase. Species expansion creates friction. Humanity offers cooperation, not replacement. We work together or face problems separately. Krell made a gesture of dismissal. Words are simple, proof is difficult. You claim to value cooperation, but demonstrate only military might. Perhaps the Halkiddan Empire should test whether human strength matches human pride. The chamber went silent. That was a challenge, a direct confrontation between the two most powerful military forces in known space. The outcome would establish hierarchy for generations. Grant considered her response carefully. She could accept and risk massive casualties. She could refuse and appear weak, or she could change the nature of the challenge entirely. Earth declines military confrontation, Grant said, but accepts a different test. Both our civilizations will send teams to broken sky, a dying planet, neutral space, ecological collapse, violent storms, tectonic instability. Whoever saves more of the native population and stabilizes the environment wins the argument. We compete through construction, not destruction. Krell had trapped himself with his own challenge. Refusing would make the Halkiddan Empire look afraid. He agreed through clenched teeth. The competition lasted 3 months. Both teams worked under identical conditions and oversight from neutral species. Observers monitored progress and verified results. The Halkiddan team used conventional approaches, built shielded habitats, evacuated population to protected zones, established resource distribution networks, fought against the planet's chaos with technology designed to Dominate environment. The human team worked differently. They studied the planet's ecology and geology, identified key failure points. In natural systems, made targeted interventions that worked with planetary forces rather than against them, taught native species adaptation techniques, built sustainable infrastructure that could survive without constant human maintenance. Final results were counted by independent verification teams. Halkidon approach saved 41% of the native population, impressive by any measure. Their settlements were stable and well protected. The human team saved 79% of the population. More importantly, the planetary ecology was stabilizing. Native species had tools and knowledge to maintain improvements after humans left. Broken Sky would survive long term. Krello stood before the assembly and acknowledged human success. The words came hard, but his species valued honesty. Earth demonstrated capability beyond military strength. They understand survival at fundament level. The Halkidon Empire was wrong to challenge them. The formal vote came 3 days later. Human territorial claims were recognized unanimously. Mutual defense pacts were signed with 42 species. Technology sharing programs received full funding and support. Safe zones in human space were officially designated for refugee populations. Grant stood on the observation deck of Crossroads Station and watched ships from dozens of species depart. Summit had succeeded beyond expectations. Humanity's place in galactic civilization was secure. Nath joined her at the window. Your people changed everything in 1 year. Grant shook her head. We just showed who we are. Earth survived impossible conditions by adapting, protecting each other, and learning from mistakes. Those lessons work anywhere, and if new threats appear, Nath asked species that will not negotiate or cooperate. Grant's expression became serious. Then, the galaxy will learn what human warships can do when we stop being gentle. The Defiant incident was a demonstration. Real human warfare is something we hope never to show, because once we start fighting to win instead of fighting to teach, the outcome is not pretty. Nath understood humanity held back during the blockade. They disabled instead of destroying, protected civilians while eliminating threats. But that restraint was a choice, not a limitation. If pushed far enough, humans would become something terrifying. The galaxy is fortunate you chose peace, Nath said. Grant smiled. The galaxy is fortunate. It gave us reason to choose peace, show strength, offer friendship, protect the vulnerable. That is the human way. The moment our warships appeared, your fleets broke in terror.